It was a magpie, one of these birds known for how smart it is. There was a full, plastic thing of water, a water bottle. And it was full. So the magpie goes over and sips out the water. The beak is only, an inch and a half long or an inch at most. So it goes in until it can't reach the water anymore. So what does it do? It goes off to the side, gets a rock, just the right size, drops it into the water bottle.
It raises the level of the water.
Thereby displacing water. Here it is.
That is heavy.
You've got the video. There it is. And so it comes and it goes back and gets another stone, drops it in, and every time it drops it in, the water level rises and it can drink more water. And it keeps doing this.
That's pretty amazing.
It's not going to go away. All the data support this. So now I've got this Big Bang thing. Is this embedded in something bigger? Ooh. So when you put like quantum physics and general relativity and you try to come up with some bigger understanding, deeper understanding, string theorists have been all into this, you get a multiverse. We didn't pull that out of our ass. That came out of the equations. So how old is the multiverse? I don't know. It's definitely older than our universe because it birthed our universe and it births other universes and it births, the way the equations drive it, an infinity of universes. What does it mean to be dead? Okay, it used to be, did you fog a mirror that was held up in front of you while you were laying there on your bed? All right, and if you didn't fog the mirror, you were judged to be dead. They would put you in a coffin, and in some parts, it is told, there's a string that they put into the coffin as they buried you, and they put it over a tree branch and connected to a bell. If you woke up, you would pull the string, and that's where you get the term dead ringer, okay? You would pull the string, and you come rescue me because you buried a living person, okay? So, Mars has a 24-hour day, approximately. It's tipped on its axis. It has polar ice caps, as we still do for now on Earth. It goes through seasons. We think there's a reservoir of water that was once there on the surface and now frozen as a permafrost. So if there's any planet that is terraformable, it would be Mars. By the way, the value of water in space is $10,000 a pound. If you lasso a comet and you say this is a lot of fresh water, I guess you can bring it back down to Earth, but that's expensive. You're better off selling it to NASA for $9,000 a pound, because it costs them $10,000 a pound to put water into orbit. Go into the center of a black hole, it's a singularity. All the theories say the matter occupies zero volume, thereby having infinite density. And that's kind of weird. What? No, you can't have infinite. No, that's a limit of Einstein's theory. The Newton's laws of motion and gravity worked. They worked not only for galloping horses, it worked for the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the Earth in orbit around the sun, and Jupiter's moons in orbit around Jupiter. But wait a minute, it doesn't work for Mercury. Mercury's orbit is not following Newton's laws. Is there something wrong with the data? Let's check it. Data's correct. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Einstein comes along and says, I have a new understanding of gravity and a new understanding of motion. And it accounts for this weirdness in Mercury's orbit.
What was the weirdness?
Its shape was not exactly what Newton's laws of gravity would give you. Its shape could only be accounted for when you throw in Einstein's theory of general relativity. Why? Because the sun's gravity is so monstrous and Mercury's orbiting close enough to it that it's being influenced by extra phenomenon going on in the universe that's the product of very high and significant gravity. Newton's laws don't stop working where they used to work. Apollo to the moon used only Newton's laws because Einstein didn't matter at those scales. The moon and Earth and rockets, we're not going fast enough for any of that to matter. But when you start going fast enough, you cannot use Newton's laws. You have to use a deeper understanding. If there's any planet that is terraformable, it would be Mars. The reason to do it is not to protect our species in case an asteroid comes and hits our Earth. That's the wrong, fine, it makes a headline, but think about it. If you have the resources to terraform Mars and ship 1 billion people there, you have the resources to deflect an asteroid from Earth, right. Okay? According to our known laws of physics, in the cooling universe, every matter and antimatter particle pair would have annihilated, made a photon, the photon would have cooled, and no more matter would have been made, and we would have had an entire universe of just light.
But
that is not the universe we occupy. One out of basically 1 million of these reactions, 1 out of 1 million, the photon did not make a matter-antimatter pair. It just made a matter particle.
it was very...
You're trying to find out why.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, it is that.
How do
that
you
we have as a
stop a
species.
gigantic existential
Yeah, you don't
asteroid?
It's go in and you deflect it.
How?
Oh, by any shove on it that's sideways?
Well, you're president of the United States,
No, well, yeah,
right?
okay.
There's a massive asteroid. It's going to crash into the world.
Yes, we have engineering plans for deflecting asteroids, and there are multiple ways to do it. You can have a gravitational tug, where you can have a spacecraft that sits just ahead of it, and the two of them will want to drift towards one another, but you take the spacecraft and put little retro rocket, and if you get this early enough, 1 centimeter per second, tiniest amount will accumulate over time, and you just have to make it so that it overshoots Earth or undershoots Earth.
In the universe, there was so much energy, every particle could be made. So watch what happens. You have a pocket of energy, it becomes mass. And the only way we know that can happen is if it becomes a particle and an antiparticle pair, matter and antimatter. So the opposite of an electron is a positron. It looks just like an electron, but among other things, it has the opposite charge of an electron, positron. Okay? Every particle has an antiparticle. In the early universe, the temperature was very hot. And above certain thresholds of temperature, what happens is matter no longer stays as matter. It can freely move back and forth between itself and energy. And we have the recipe for this. It comes from E equals mc squared. We all know that equation. It's the formal conversion recipe for matter and energy. And the c squared is the speed of light squared. It's a huge number. A little bit of mass times that huge number gives you a lot of energy. We don't experience in our lives E equals mc squared because the energy in which we're immersed is not high enough to enable matter to go back and forth between energy and itself. That's why it took so long to discover E equals mc squared and to come to terms and to come to understand it. If you take matter and antimatter and put them together, they annihilate and become pure energy, and the matter disappears entirely. You take the particles, matter, antimatter, identical particles except that they're matter, antimatter, bring them together, they disappear. And that matter becomes energy, and all that's left is energy. Right in that pocket, right there. Newton comes along, writes down equations of motion, equations of gravity, and kind of on a dare, he invents integral and differential calculus. Then he turned 26. This is why Isaac Newton is my man. The red spot on Jupiter, we call it Jupiter's red spot.
Okay.
Because that's how we roll.
That thing is...
Spots on the sun, sunspots. See?
Forgive me for not remembering the name of this person who uttered this, but upon realizing with the power of a bow and arrow, you could kill another human being without actually looking them in the eyes. And the conclusion was, that's the end of bravery. And so I thought about this, whoa. Any tool where you can kill at a distance, that's cowardly on some level. And the progress of military conflict has been, how far away can you kill at a distance?
Well, enough.
No one's talking
Isn't
about
it suspicious to you that a storm there could go on for 350 years without a break, and we never have storms that go on for 350 years without a break? We don't even have storms that go on for like 6 weeks without a break.
So, first of all, these storms are, when we have storms, it's in our atmosphere. So that's gas.
Yeah.
We rotate once a day. And so that rotation creates what we call a Coriolis force, which moving air that moves from one latitude to another, actually has its direction deflected because of this Coriolis force. And this is why storms rotate in one direction, counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. The Coriolis force is heightened if you spin faster. Okay? And so what is Jupiter? It's 100 times bigger than Earth. more than that, 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's like 10, it's 10 times across the cube. So it's 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's mostly gas. And it rotates once in about 10 hours. You want to talk about ferocious Coriolis forces? We have storms that last weeks here. Hurricanes that pick up and they get weeks on this little speck we call Earth that has this much atmosphere on it. Go to a planet that rotates twice as fast, is 10 times as wide, 1,000 times the volume, and is mostly gas, and you're complaining that it lasted 300 years?
You are really good.
NASA's budget today is 0.4% of the federal budget. If you take $1,
0.4%.
I will quantify that for you. Take a dollar bill and imagine that's your tax dollar, and you can like cut it to whatever percent you want. So let's cut 0.4% off of the edge. That doesn't get you into the ink. You're still in the white
area.
border around
Yeah.
it.
You wouldn't even notice. They take that dollar.
You could trim that off the dollar and
Pay for anything.
I was channel surfing one day, waiting for a movie to come on at the top of the hour. I had 15 minutes. I hit a football game, and they just ended the game at a tie, and they just started overtime. I said, that's about right. Let me just watch this. How bad could it be? After the necessary exchange of possession, it became sudden death overtime. And then one of the teams, Cincinnati Bengals, got within 50 yards, and they kicked the field goal. And the ball rotated up. It hit the left upright of the goalpost and went in. And I said, ooh, wait a minute. And I said, which stadium is this? What's the latitude? And I looked at the orientation of the stadium, I did a calculation, and then I tweeted. And I said, the overtime winning field goal by the Cincinnati Bengals was likely aided by a 1/3 of an inch deflection to the right imparted by Earth's rotation.
Which was
People
just what
lost
the
their
place-
minds. I was asked about the movie Guardians of the Galaxy. And they asked me, well, the ships that are going through space, they make noise. And clearly, does that upset you? Because in space, where there is no air, no one can hear you scream. But no one can hear you explode either, nor will you hear engines or anything. And so they said, does that upset you? And I said, I bought into the idea that this movie has a talking raccoon that shoots artillery from heavy weaponry off its shoulder. If I can accept that, I'm good with whatever else they deliver in the film. If you really want to levitate, if this is really important to you, I tried to calculate how many cans of beans this would require. Then you got to kind of hold it in.
Yeah. All right.
Then let loose.
Suddenly.
Yes. And in principle, for the duration of the thrust, you can levitate briefly.
What scares you most about civilization?
We're losing our capacity to distinguish what is true from what is not, what is objectively true. And the methods and tools of science are exquisitely designed to establish what is objectively true. And objective truth is, I perform an experiment, I get a result. Other people perform other experiments, get the same result. It repeats, there it is.
Line up 1,000 people, give them a coin, and everybody's flip the coin. And about half will get tails, half will get heads. If you got tails, sit down. That's 500 left, approximate.
Mm-hmm.
Have them flip. Half get heads, 250 of you sit down. Now we're left with 2. Do it again. Go from 250 to 125 to 60, 30, 15, 8, 4 to 2 to 1. Okay? In this experiment. It's not an unthinkable experiment.
Mm-hmm.
This person who survived this exercise flipped heads 10 consecutive times. Now here's what journalists do. They go up to that person and they say, how do you feel? Well, I knew I had felt that head's energy halfway through, and I was feeling it, did they ask anyone else if they felt that head's energy? No, they only interviewed that guy. Okay? I'm not done. Essentially, every time you do this experiment, somebody's gonna flip heads 10 consecutive times. So you wanna say, oh, this is a special universe in which that happened? No, because of the nature of the fact that you have 1,000 experiments happening all the time, there's gonna be one where somebody flips heads 10 consecutive times. Every time you do this experiment.
I don't think we command dimensions.
Yeah, right.
We are prisoners within them. Take time, for example. We are a prisoner of the present.
Right.
Forever transitioning between our inaccessible past and our unknowable future. We don't wield this dimension, we live it.
What is your favorite fact about the universe?
I am astonished every day I wake up that the universe is knowable. Even on the small scales that the nuts that we've cracked for it, that it's knowable at all. We can rise to consciousness and pose questions about our origin. It's been suggested that we are a way for the universe to know itself.
Roses are red, violets are violet. Right? Is it, I mean, who came up with violets are blue? What is that? I'm in there, I order hot chocolate, and I order it with whipped cream, of course, right? And it comes to the table, and there's no whipped cream. And I said, I ordered this with whipped cream, and they said, oh, we put it on. And I said, well, where is it? Oh, he said, it's sunk to the bottom. I then said, either the laws of physics that apply everywhere in the universe are suspended in your coffee shop, or you didn't put whipped cream on my hot cocoa. And he looked indignant.
Really?
Now, to his credit, rather than continue to argue with me, he intended to prove me wrong.
Whoa.
So he went into the kitchen, brought out the whipped cream, scooped it up, popped it in my hot cocoa, and it bobbed once and floated atop. And there it was.
Did you invite him?
Of course whipped cream has to float. Because, first of all, before it was whipped cream, it was cream, okay? And old timers remember, what does cream do in unhomogenized milk? It floats to the top, and you skim off the cream, leaving behind skim milk, okay? This is how that works. Now you take the heavy cream and then whip it, putting air into it. It is not gonna sink on any known liquid devised by man, okay? Oh, by the way, I have a photon joke. Can I tell it?
Tell the photon.
Okay. A photon checks into a hotel. The bellhop hat comes up and says, do you have any luggage? And the photon says, no, I'm traveling light.
Ever see the schoolroom globes, the geographic globes? And you rub your finger over Nepal and you get the Himalayas. Yeah, and you get the Rockies. And you say, oh, that is a gross exaggeration of reality.
Yes.
Do you realize if you took Earth with all of its mountains, valleys, and hills and shrunk it down to the size of a cue ball, it would be smoother than any cue ball ever machined. Think about it.
What?
Think about this. Joe.
Really?
Joe,
Everest?
Joe, chill. It's called the Planetary Protection Program in NASA. It's a whole division of NASA. It's protecting Earth from bugs that could be coming from space on our own spaceship that we bring back. And it protects destinations from us. There's a certain sterilization levels that we invoke. The Cassini spacecraft We plunged that back into Saturn in its death when we were done with it and ran out of money, we're done with it, plunged into Saturn to vaporize. We didn't leave it in orbit around Saturn. Why? Because it might have crashed into one of Saturn's moons that might have life. And if someone had sneezed on the spacecraft before it got launched, we don't want to contaminate the life that we are later going to one day want to study.
What?
New Year's is celebrated in 24 time zones, not all at the same time.
Right.
So it's interesting, everyone thinks of that as a moment. Yet it's really a calendar event. I'm sorry, it's a clock
hours.
event. It's celebrated over 24 hours.
Yeah, if you're in Thailand, it's 14 hours difference.
So therefore, if you were to do it astrophysically, you would know the exact moment where we returned in our orbit, and everybody would celebrate that instant. And that would be, so then the whole world would celebrate the new year at the same time. It means you value it differently. It's not a midnight celebration. Let's count 365 days. When we do that, we are not at the same place we were when we last celebrated New Year's Eve. But we celebrate New Year's anyway. Well, when will we be in the same place? A quarter of a day later. 6 hours. So we would celebrate the next New Year at 6 a.m.
Nobody's willing to do that.
No one's willing. And the next New Year at noon, then the next New Year at 6 p.m.
Whoa.
And then the next New Year kind of aligns back again. Well, that's the leap day. That's the 4th year we have put in a leap day.
Oh.
If you're playing basketball and you're shooting, okay, and you say, oh, that didn't go in. Oh my gosh, well, you know, the rim, they should maybe make the rim a little bigger. I could score more often. Do you realize 2 basketballs can fit exactly side by side through the opening of a basketball hoop? It's how these guys can fly from the foul line in an airborne slam dunk and not miss. Because the area of this opening is 4 times, you do the math, it's 4 times as large as the ball itself. Yes, there were diseases that Columbus brought to North America, much written about that. Less written is that he brought syphilis back to Europe. First cases of syphilis of 1492.
Whoa.
And then it
They got
skyrocketed.
syphilis from the Native Americans?
Yes. I was captain of my high school's wrestling team. So I was a geek person who could actually kick your ass, okay? And I saw how my fellow geeks, because that's the community that I associated with, card carrying, were treated by the football quarterback and the popular kids and the kids who are all beautiful and the ones who, and I imagined my future as a superhero, defender of the geeks.
Wow.
So that you put up a little, you know, bat signal, whatever, geek signal, put a few digits of pi, and I come flying in, and there's a wedgie in progress, right? Do you know the deepest part of Earth's crust?
No.
The Marianas Trench off the coast of the Philippines in the Pacific Ocean.
That's the deepest part.
Deepest part, it goes 6 miles down. The highest point on Earth's surface, the tip of K1.
Where is K1?
K1, it's the Himalayan mountains.
Okay.
In Nepal. How high up is that? Well, it's 28,000 feet. So it's like 5 miles up. The distance between the lowest point on Earth's surface and the highest point on Earth's surface is 11 miles. That is less than the length of Manhattan, yet we are 8,000 miles in diameter.
Wow.
I want that territory, not this other one. In fact, I want it all. That kind of attitude breeds violence. It breeds war, intragalactic war. So it may be that the very kind of civilization that could peacefully colonize a galaxy is not the kind of civilization that would colonize the galaxy at all.
Oof, that's heavy.
I did the last television interview with Professor Stephen Hawking. I said to him, what is, in your estimation, the biggest threat to mankind? And he said, when artificial intelligence learns to self-design. And other people have extrapolated that to mean, look, the thing is, when AI gets really advanced and gets potentially sentient, it will look at human beings and think, well, this lot are a complete waste of time. And they'll just basically kill us all.
And make a world for themselves.
Yes.
Right.